Welcome to the FCICA product webinar series. Thank you for joining us. We are pleased to have Sean Leahy, East Regional Sales Manager, Interior Finishing, Sika Corporation, with us today presenting Sika Self-Leveling Underlayments. Sean has been in the flooring industry for over 2 decades, starting on the contractor side, learning about the flooring industry from the ground up. Early positions as an estimator and project manager with a commercial contractor in New Jersey introduced him to the many installation methods, finishing flooring products, and surface preparation scenarios. After 10 years working on the contractor side, he moved over to the manufacturer side, working for H.B. Fuller, primarily with Tec Installation products and Chapco Adhesives. Sean is now the East Regional Manager for Sika Interior Finishes, leading a sales team focused on a full line of surface prep products, flooring adhesives, and the brand new Sika Tile installation system. Welcome, Sean. We're excited to have you. I'm going to turn the controls over to you now.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for having me. Today we're going to do a presentation on surface prep, specifically self-leveling, skim coat, and primers. We'll go over all the products in depth, how they're used, some of their features and benefits, learn a little bit about Sika as a company, and then obviously we'll have some questions at the end. But to start off, I do want to introduce you a little bit to Sika in case you've never heard of us. Huge manufacturer of construction products across the globe, and there's a short video here to show you some of the different projects and products that Sika represents. So if you can go ahead and play the video, Bill. So that's just a short video just to sort of show you some of the broad range of projects that Sika has worked on. Every building, car, runway, fountain, dam that you saw in that video has some kind of Sika product on there in all the different markets that we service. And to get into Sika a little bit, as you can see here, especially chemicals company, leading position, development, production of systems and products for bonding, sealing, damping, reinforcing, and protecting the building sector and the motor vehicle industry. On the building side of the business, we talk about building envelope and all the different ways to secure a building from the inside out. At a glance, 17,000 employees spread out over 100 plus companies or countries, 160 plus factories worldwide. So constantly opening up new factories, constantly adding new patents, constantly acquiring new companies to create growth within our company, and looking to polish off different systems of installations and add pieces to the puzzle. Net sales of over $6 billion worldwide, with over $1 billion here in the U.S. The markets that Sika services, there's concrete, there's waterproofing, there's roofing, flooring and coating, sealing and bonding, refurbishment, and the automotive industry. In the video, you saw all kinds of different applications. You saw the roof for the Dallas Stadium, which is a Sika roof. You saw the bridge that spans the Hoover Dam that has concrete admix in there from Sika. The reflection pool in Washington, D.C. is waterproofing from Sika. So all different types of products there that work their way into different construction products that Sika manufactures. The products we're going to be talking about today actually fall into the flooring part of the Sika market. You see the third one down there, Sika Level. All of our products that go into surface prep are typically have the Sika Level moniker and then whatever number or name after it to let you know sort of which part of Sika you're involved in. But this also gets involved in epoxy coatings. So we have all these leveling and surface prep products that go underneath your finished flooring that's required. We're also part of, in Interior Finishes, we're also part of the Sealing and Bonding division. If you look at the second one down there, you see Sika Bond. So all of our adhesives have that moniker, Sika Bond T21, Sika Bond T100. So that lets you know that you're part of the Sealing and Bonding division. And within there, we have all the sealants on the exterior of the Empire State Building that gets replaced every 10 years. That's all Sika products. The Metropolis in LA was a huge 5-building project where we have all the moisture mitigation and Sika self-level, as well as Sika wood adhesives on that project for the condominiums. So those are the types of projects that we look to try and get these products specified on. And what's nice about Sika is all the GCs know who Sika is. Inevitably, on any project that I can walk into, if I see a project trailer, I can probably find some kind of Sika product on the spec that's being used, whether it's the roof or the underground waterproofing or the concrete admix or railing grout or anything. We're probably on the spec somewhere, which is good on the contractor side because that means the A&D community is very familiar with us. To get a little bit into the products, I'll quickly show you just the product range that shows you everything that's involved in interior finishes. To the left there, you see our primers, which also include moisture mitigation, the Sika MB, the Sika MB Red Line, as well as our 2 primers, the O1 and the O2, and we'll talk about those in a little bit. And then you have all the surface prep products, so skim coats and all the different levelers that we have under our line. And the final grouping is all of our adhesives, wood flooring adhesives, LVT adhesives, rubber tile, just about anything that you need to put down with glue. Sika has a product that we can put on the job site. To get a little bit more in depth into the surface prep, we're going to go through the Sika Level range of products. So these are all going to be the products that you would use to prepare a floor to get ready for the finished flooring that you're installing, whether it's VCT or LVT or carpet tile or engineered hardwood, whatever type of product that you're installing. Typically, that subfloor is going to need some type of preparation. Very rarely, and if we have a large group of contractors or estimators on this call, very rarely are you giving a concrete floor that is perfect and ready to go. You can just walk in with your trowel and adhesive and start rocking and rolling. Inevitably, there's something going on that slab that you need to address prior to putting down your finished flooring. And working for a flooring contractor for 10 years, I know how difficult that is to get paid on. I know how difficult that is to explain to the job super, hey, I have to do this. It's going to take me an extra day. All those different difficult conversations that you need to have, inevitably, when you want to try and use these products. So we'll get into these products. We're not going to do moisture mitigation. I like to actually have that as a full separate presentation, actually, because it's so important and it's very involved in all the different ways and all the different applications. So really, we're going to start with your powders, essentially. But know that if there ever is a need for any kind of moisture mitigation on a project, Sika does have that product as well. So with any surface preparation undertaking where there are self-levelers involved, you need to prime the slab always. There is no self-leveling job out there that you do not need to prime first. So please keep that in mind when you go to send a project out that's self-leveling. There better be a couple pails of primer on there because you need that product to create a bonding agent between the concrete slab and the new cement that you're pouring. Otherwise, you'll pour self-leveler over top and you'll be able to walk on it and it'll feel like it's nice and sturdy. But you take a little hammer and chisel to it and it'll come clean off of that existing slab because you don't have a very good bond of cement to cement. And these primers produce that bond. The first one here is the Primer 01 Plus. This is a primer that's specifically designed for porous substrates. It's an acrylic primer, a single component, but it can be diluted. So if you look at the packaging or you look at the data sheet, it will give you all different various dilutions, but obviously the most popular one is a 1:3 dilution, which is 1 part primer, 3 parts water. And that's your dilution when you're going over top of porous concrete. If you were to try and put this on at 100%, in other words, not diluting it over top of concrete, the primer would not absorb very well into the concrete. It's a very thick primer. Primers by nature, being the acrylic, they're thicker and more viscous than water. So they don't really want to travel with gravity down into the capillaries of the slab. That's why you need to dilute it with some water in a 1:3 ratio, and that will help promote the absorption of the primer into the concrete slab. Dry time for this is really the key and what separates it from others in the industry. It's a 10-minute cure dry time on concrete. There's some that are half hour, there's some that are upwards of an hour, and that's really just the type of acrylic that's used and the chemistry behind it. This technology comes to us over from Europe. It has an extremely fast dry time of 10 minutes. High coverage, 770 square feet per gallon, and that's based off of that 1:3 dilution. There are some smaller dilutions, 1:2, 1:1. Typically, those get involved when you're on gypcrete substrates, and you're going to be doing multiple passes of the primer to help densify and consolidate that gypcrete. But if you're looking at a concrete slab with a 1:3 ratio, you're going to get about 770 square feet out of a gallon of this product. When you look at how it's applied, it's simply a paint roller. 3/8 inch nap roller. You want to pre-saturate it, in a puddle or in a paint can or a paint tray like you see in the upper picture there. You want to pre-saturate that roller so that you're not just pushing the primer around, you're actually driving it down into the slab. And you can see him working. You obviously want to work yourself out towards the door. You don't want to box yourself into a room. But it's a simple one pass with the paint roller. Get your coverage. It'll dry clear. It'll put a little bit of a sheen on the cement, so you'll be able to tell where you primed and where you missed. But that's the 01 Primer Plus. Again, that's for your porous substrates, 10-minute dry time. Second primer is called the Sika Level-425 Easy Primer. This is for when you're going over top of non-porous substrates. So existing ceramic and quarry tiles, porcelain, water-resistant adhesive residues. So if you have cutback adhesive that's down that you don't want to disturb. Epoxy terrazzo, even epoxy moisture mitigation system. So if you're putting down a moisture mitigation system that's an epoxy, this is the type of primer that you would want to put over top of that if you wanted to then self-level or skim coat over top of the moisture mitigation. And the reason for that is a cured epoxy moisture mitigation system is basically impervious to water, so it's a non-porous substrate. We also list this as the preferred primer when you're going over top of wood. The reason for that is with these plywood and OSB and things of that nature, where you have adhesives that are present within the plywood, within the wood. You want to use this product because it's not going to penetrate down into those adhesives and cause any kind of delamination like a diluted 01 primer would. So if you're priming and planning to self-level over top of plywood, this is the primer that we would recommend. It's also an acrylic primer, just like the 01. However, this has an aggregate, a sand actually suspended in the product. So when this dries, it actually delivers a CSP of 3 to whatever substrate you're going over top of, which is the perfect CSP for then applying any kind of a cement-based self-leveler or patch. It's a single component, so it's not like you need to mix an A and a B. You always going to put this down at 100% concentration. You're never going to dilute this product. It is fast drying. It has 15 to 60 minutes there, but I've never done a demo with this or been on a job site where this hasn't dried in a half hour. Very fast drying system here. It's got a high yield, 325 square feet to 500 square feet per unit. And that's really driven by the smoothness of whatever you're going over top of. If you're going over top of a pitted concrete floor that's going to eat up a little bit of your coverage, that's what's going to happen. You'll be down in that 325, 350 range. If you're going over top of a moisture mitigation system like our MB, and you have a smooth glass-like finish, you're going to get upwards of that 500 square feet per unit that you see on the upper end of the range. It comes in a single gallon unit. You're going to want to give it a shake or a stir before you open it up so you can resuspend any of that sand that might have settled into the product. When you put this down, you also are not limited with your SLU depth. So sometimes with a self-leveler, if you're going thicker than an inch, inch and a half, 2 inch, 3 inches, over top of a moisture mitigation system or over top of a non-porous substrate, they'll ask you to put down a primer and then broadcast sand into it so that you can create a mechanical bond. Because the sand is already in the primer, there's no need to broadcast sand, and therefore there's no need to worry about the max depth of your self-leveling that you're going over top of. Minimal prep is involved, obviously, because we're going over to top of a non-porous substrate. And you're going to get your square foot cost reduction down by about 60%. Again, the application is just a paint roller. So similar to the 01 Primer Plus, you're going to roll the product out. You can go thin with this. You do not need to lay it down thick. Actually, the thinner the better because you'll get on the higher end of your coverage. And you can see in that second picture to the right, he's already primed that back area leading back to that hall, and it's already started to dry. So it's a very fast drying product. We do tell you that with both of our primers, we prefer that you're going over top of it within 24 hours with some type of a cement-based product. For the O2 Easy, the reason for that is we want to make sure that we minimize foot traffic over top of it after it's dried. There is a sand aggregate that's suspended in the product, but it's not designed to be walked on for a very long period of time because eventually you'll walk that sand out of the cured acrylic and you'll no longer have that CSP. So we want to make sure after you do use this primer, you're covering it with some type of cement within the 24-hour period. This particular application, they're going over top of our Sika MB Redline. So you can see that mirror-like finish that is you get with a two-part epoxy and why you need to use a non-porous primer to stick to that type of a product. Now we're going to get into some of the surface repair, self-leveling skim coat type products. The first product is Sika Level Skim Coat, an ultra-smooth reprofiling mortar. This is a 10-pound bag. It smooths and reprofiles your existing concrete slab to accept new flooring. These types of products are particularly important when you're installing any kind of a soft floor covering that will telegraph any kind of imperfections. So your VCTs, your sheet vinyls, your linoleums, your solid vinyl planks that are so popular right now, they're very soft with these 100% vinyl products, which is great. It makes them very easy to use. It makes them conform, but it also causes any imperfections to telegraph. If anyone's ever done a VCT floor and you come back a month later after it's been waxed 5 or 6 times, and it looks like there's these huge bumps in the VCT that have cracks all around them from the buffing machine and people walking on it, and you think, God, there must be a rock underneath that tile, and you heat up the tile and you lift it up, and lo and behold, it's a piece of dirt the size of a pinhead that has caused such a large bump. That's because everything telegraphs with these softer floor coverings, which is why you need a product like Skim Coat to smooth it out, be able to feather edge things down to next to nothing so that you can do transitions between your floor coverings. This product you can also go up to a 1/2 inch with though. So you can go a 1/2 inch down to a feather edge. It's great for moisture-sensitive flooring because this product has unlimited MVER. That means unlimited moisture vapor emission rates. So that's very important in this time with flooring adhesives. So I'm sure a lot of people on this call have used a lot of these high moisture technology adhesives, whether it's an LVT adhesive or a carpet tile adhesive or a VCT adhesive that says, oh, this can handle up to 98% relative humidity, or this can handle up to 95% relative humidity. That's great. That means your adhesive is going to stand up to 98% relative humidity. But what if your patch doesn't? What if you're using one of these older design patches that does not have unlimited moisture vapor emissions? Well, what inevitably happens is if you have a slab that is emitting 95% relative humidity and you think you're covered with your adhesive, you may be, but you may not be covered with your patch. So what happens is that constant drive of moisture up and down through that patch. It's going to travel up, hit that adhesive that won't allow it to go anywhere, and then it's going to sort of bounce around and sort of stick in that patch. Over time, that causes these patches, these older generation patches, to break down and soften, become almost like a Play-Doh type consistency. That's when you start seeing all these indentations in your vinyl flooring. You start seeing roller marks from wheelchairs or medical beds. You start seeing impressions in VCT from tables and chairs. A lot of times that's due to the patch that's underneath it, or even the self-leveling that's underneath it, that is unable to handle the moisture that's passing through it and causing it to break down and soften. This particular product has unlimited MVER. So when it cures rock hard at 5,800, 6,000 PSI, it's not going to soften. You get very good coverage, as you do with most skim coats, up to 110 square feet per bag at a feather edge. And again, it does come in 10-pound bags like any traditional skim coats that are out there. It's quick drying, so you're getting on top of it fast. Perfect product for your smoothing applications out on job sites. Here you can just see it being applied. Mix it to the proper water ratio. That's what's so important with all of these cement products, is that you mix it to the proper water ratio. Do not overwater these products. It only weakens them. I love to show this slide because our skim coat is so user-friendly. We have guys that use it with a stand-up trowel called a magic trowel. And these are actually sold at paint stores, believe it or not. But you can apply this product standing up. It's so easy to use and flows so nicely and creates such a smooth finish that you're able to use this standing up and get your guys off their hands and knees. That's the Sika skim coat. Now we'll get into the range of self-leveling products that we offer at Sika. Again, these are products that you mix a couple bags at a time, you pour them out, and they seek their own level. So self-leveling products are different than skim coats in their technology. That is because they're self-healing, and they have what's called bounce-back technology. And that holds true for any manufacturer out there that has self-levelers. What separates these products is their ability to heal. In other words, you can work in it and not disrupt it for a period of time. And also the ability for that product to quote-unquote bounce back. So it's going to seek its lowest spot. And when it finds that lowest spot, it's going to bounce back and sort of autofill everything behind it and create that flat surface that you're looking for. That's why these products don't puddle. If I was just going to go to a Home Depot and pick up a bag of Quikrete and add twice the water to it so I can make it handle like a self-leveler, it's certainly not going to cure and act like one on a job site. It's going to puddle. It's going to take very long to dry. It's going to have a brittleness or a powderiness when it dries because of the amount of water that I had to use to get to that workability. So it's not just adding more water to cement that creates self-leveling. There's chemistry involved in it that allows it to do what it does out on a job site and perform the way it does. The first product is 125. That's our economical product. This is something that you would use out on large-scale jobs where you're self-leveling, sometimes before walls are in place, but well ahead of flooring. You want to get that floor nice and level, but you know you don't have anyone coming in to actually install flooring for several days. That's because this will take a little bit longer to dry to put finished flooring over top of it. It's interior use only. You can go up to you can go up to 1 inch in a single pour, 2 inches in some small areas, and 2 inches with aggregate. When we talk about aggregate on all these slides, I'm talking about sand or pea gravel. Those are the two types of aggregate that we approve with any of these products. And those you would add on a one-to-one basis, and that actually increases how thick you can pour in a single lift. You can walk on this product in 2 to 3 hours. Levels new and renovated old flooring, and you can install next day depending on how thick you pour. This is a 50-pound bag, and the reason I point that out is most of the products out there on the market are 50-pound bags. This is the only product in Sika that's a 50-pound bag. After this, everything you see is going to be 55-pound bags. So that's something to consider as you price up jobs with Sika, is that ours comes in 55 pounds. So every bag you get, you're going to get 10% more product and more coverage than you do with any other products that are out there on the market. So typically a job that is using a competitor's product, you're going to need less bags of the Sika because of that technology and because of the 55-pound difference. This particular product, you're going to get 21 square feet at a 1/4 inch. Here you can see a guy barrel mixing it. This is a job in New York City being installed over top of radiant heat. All of these self-levelers can go over top of radiant heat to help encapsulate it and finish the system off and prepare it for flooring installation. Next product in the line is called the Sika Level-425. This is our high flow product, so very low viscosity, interior use only, suitable for going over top of concrete, old ceramic or quarry tile, OSB plywood. Again, those ceramic and OSB plywood, those would be the O2EZ primer that you'd use in that situation. Great for residential and commercial projects. You can go up to 1.25 inches on this product. So you get an extra 1/4 inch in a single pour with this product as compared to the 125. You're walking on it in less than 3 hours. And moisture sensitive flooring you can put down in 16 hours. So a little bit faster than you can the 125. You get a little bit of better coverage. You're up to 28 square feet per 1/4 inch with this product. But again, you're looking at now a 55-pound bag. So for that high flow type of product, if that's what you're used to using, this is a great option out there in the market. Again, 1.25 inches in a single pour, up to 2.5 inches if you want to add aggregate or do a second lift on top. This just shows you an urgent care facility where they had a drain in the middle and the slab was pre-sloped down to the drain, and they came in with a 225 and remedied the slope. Next product on the slide here is the Sika Level-425. This is our deep pour product. It can be used interior or exterior. You can go up to 3 inches with aggregate, so 1.5 inches if you're going to pour it neat. So 1.5 inches is the thickest of any of our self-levelers that you can pour neat in a single pour. Manual or pumpable application, 5,300 PSI at 28 days, so you get an incredible amount of compressive strength with this after a month. Your typical concrete slabs are 36 to 3,800 PSI after 28 days. So this is an incredibly rigid and high compressive strength product. Low shrinkage, so you don't get shrinkage cracks. You can pour this as thin as 1/8 of an inch and still have caster wheel loading over top of it, and it will not break down or crack. Zero VOCs. It's got our Visocrete technology, which all of our self-levelers have, which is the ability to seek the lowest level in the floor and bounce back. And again, you have a yield of 26 square feet at a 1/4 inch. So you're getting enhanced yield out of this product. This is our workhorse, I would say, out there in the market. This is what most people are using. They like the ability to be able to go up to 1.5 inches. And the finish of it is very nicely when it's poured, as you can see there. To the left is day of the pour, the right is the following day. So it leaves you a nice flat floor ready for surface, ready for your adhesives. Very minimal surface required after it, any skimming or anything like that. I did mention earlier that you can go indoor-outdoor with it. Here's an example of it being used exterior at a project out in California. So here's the case where it's being used before not only the roof is installed, but any of the walls are installed. The reason we're able to do this is because it has very similar technology to the Skim coat, where it can handle unlimited moisture vapor transmission. So it can handle moisture passing through it, whether it's from groundwater or from rainwater. So it can handle that type of an application. So it can handle unlimited moisture vapor. It will not break down. That's why it can be used exterior or interior. This next product, Bill, while I explain this product, slide number 29 is another video. I don't know if you're able to pull that out so they can see it like you did the first video. If you are, just let me know in the chat while I talk about this slide. So 425 is a self-leveler. It's a dust-reduced technology. So this is an innovation that Sika has patented. It's for interior use only with this dust-reduced technology. It's suitable for going over top of concrete, non-porous products, just like we talked about on the other slide, as long as you use the O2 EZ primer. You can go up to a 1/2 inch in a single lift, all the way down to a feather edge. So it's a very high flow product, moves very easily. You don't need to mess with it too much with a rake or a porcupine roller. It's going to keep that surface tension down and keep flowing throughout the room. It has low shrinkage, even down at a feather edge. It's not going to spider crack on you. Very good workability, like I mentioned. You don't have to play with this product a lot. You know, when you talk to guys that do a lot of self-leveling work, they don't want to have to constantly touch the product. They want to be able to barrel mix or pump, pour it on the floor, and walk away and let the product do what it's supposed to do and not have to sit there and mess with it and pull it and touch it. That's what you're going to get with a product like 425. Suitable for caster wheel loading at all thicknesses and moisture-sensitive flooring after 16 hours. And the coverage, as you can see, jumps up with this product because of that dust-reduced technology. We're able to go 30 square feet at a 1/4 inch. Okay, so it doesn't look like we can do that video, but basically what that video shows is pretty neat, and I can send it out to a link afterwards if anyone's interested. I think my contact information is somewhere in the presentation, maybe at the end, or Christine can send it out at the end. If you want to see the video, I'm more than happy to send it to you. But it's a nice video. It shows sort of a side-by-side comparison of barrel mixing, a standard self-leveler, just one of our random competitors, and then the 425 product. And what's amazing is you see not only the amount of dust that is produced just by barrel mixing, but the amount of product that is lost on the floor afterwards. If you've ever been to a self-leveling job or you've done it yourself, it's not a clean process. I mean, you're cutting bags, you're shaking them into a barrel, you're jamming a mixer into it at RPMs and kicking product all over the place. What's nice about this product is you cut open the bag, you pour it in, and all the product just settles into the barrel. You're not getting these plumes of dust that go everywhere. Not only losing product, dirtying up your job site, but as we all know now with these OSHA requirements on job sites and trying to minimize the silica that's in the air, this is a huge benefit to those types of projects. So job supers love this this product on their job because they don't see the silica issue and they don't see the mess on the job site. So unfortunately, we won't show that video, but I can send that out if anyone wants to take a look at it. Here's the product being installed, Metro Urgent Care. You can see how tightly they're able to pull it. At that break there, you can see in the bottom picture to the right, you're getting closer to that 1/2 inch. And then as you travel to the left, it just keeps feathering down and down and down. And all the while leaving yourself a nice, smooth, consistent product left behind to install your finished flooring. Next product in the line is the Sika Level-425 Rapid. This is our fast drying self-leveler. Interior use only, very fast cure. You're going to be going over top of this product in 90 minutes. And that's not with just ceramic or porcelain. That's with VCT, LVT, carpet tile, poured epoxies, all types of floor coverings. You're going over top of that in 90 minutes with moisture-sensitive floor covering. You can go up to 1 inch in a single pour, just like the 425, and you can pull it all the way to a feather edge. Forklift traffic and caster wheels are no problem for this product. Cures out above 6,000 PSI, so it's a very dense, hard product. Perfect for applications with heavy foot traffic, Designed to go down thin. The reason we designed it to go down thin is it's part of our Sika Secure Rapid system. So we have all types of scenarios where we're using this product in grocery stores, schools, where they need fast turnaround. They need next day turnaround. And they can't always wait for their self-leveler to dry and come back the next day. They need to get on it as quickly as possible. We had to make sure we could design this for thin applications because some guys are using this in lieu of a skim coat. 30 square feet per bag at a 1/4 inch. And here you see a guy using it essentially as a skim coat. He's putting it down ultra thin, dragging it, putting down a nice layer, filling in all of his potholes and little pimples in his concrete slab. And in 90 minutes, he's got this whole room ready for any type of flooring installation. So I talk about a lot of these fast turnaround projects, grocery stores, mall work. You know, we did a string of grocery stores in the Midwest where they would have a crew come in as soon as they closed up at 9 p.m. and they'd come and they'd demo the entire 2 to 3 aisles worth of VCT. And then with our MB Red Line, which is a moisture mitigation system that cures in 3 hours, our O2EZ primer, which cures in a half hour, and this product, which dries in 90 minutes, you have a 5-hour turnaround time from taking a concrete slab that's recently demoed, high moisture, and out of level. In 5 hours, you can get that moisture under control and a flat surface to install any floor covering. There's really no system out there that can do that quickly and take care of all of those headaches, moisture and the levelness pitting of the substrate, to make sure that you're ready to come back and install a soft type of product that will telegraph. The next product in the line is the Sika Level-425 Light. This is a gypsum-based product, so it's got advantages of no shrinkage, very, very competitive strengths to your Portland cement or calcium aluminate products that you just saw in the previous slides, and lack of water sensitivity, being able to go over top of high moisture type slabs. It's a synthetic gypsum-based SLU. That means it's lightweight, low dust, and dries quickly, but it also has very, very high strength, which you don't get in a typical gypsum-based substrate. It's applied from a 16-inch, basically a feather edge, all the way up to a 1/2 inch neat. You can go 1 inch to 2 inches extended in some areas, depending on the amount of square footage. And look at the coverage. You're getting upwards of 35 square feet per bag at a 1/4 inch. Again, like the others, this is a 55-pound bag. 30-minute pot life, and you have a 2-hour walk-on time at 3/8 of an inch. That means if you pour a 3/8 inch self-leveling job, you're able to walk through that for 2 hours and mess around with it or get to the other end or do something, some type of a second pour in the middle. But then it's going to rapidly cure, and you're walking on this in 3 to 4 hours. You're going over top of this in 16 hours with moisture-sensitive floor covering. So your LVTs, your VCTs, you're going over top of this in 16 hours. But the PSI is what's important. 5,800 PSI compressive strength. That means you can go right over top of this without having to prime it. Some of the other gypcretes that are out there, like the Maxon-based gypcretes, they're curing at around anywhere from 3,200 to 3,600 PSI. That's just not consolidated enough to go over top of with adhesive. The reason for that is your trowel is going to dig right into it. It's going to powder up. It's going to ball the adhesive up. And that's why they'll tell you, okay, you have to come and prime this product. This 825 is going to cure out at 5,800 PSI. You're not going to scratch it with a key or a knife, let alone your trowel. So you're going to be able to go right over top of this with your flooring adhesives. You can apply it over top of concrete, but it's ideally suited to go over top of gypcrete. It creates the perfect bond to gypcrete. Concrete, Portland cement, or calcium aluminate, it does not bond well to gypcrete. They're different products with different crystal structures that just do not handle bonding well to each other. That's why gypcrete repair has always been such a pain in the neck for people when they go and do a demo of a job that's been installed over top of gypcrete. Now you have the solution with the 825 Light. You can go over top of old vinyl, old tile, old water-resistant adhesive residue. So if you're in any of these metropolitan areas, New York City, Detroit, Boston, Philadelphia, you go into some of these jobs and you rip up old carpet and what's underneath it but 9x9 tiles, and you know what that means. You have asbestos. And as you're ripping up this glue down carpet, half the tiles come up with it. Now you see the black mastic. So that's Pandora's box. That's a nightmare. But this is your solution. You come in with that O2 Easy primer that I showed you earlier. You prime the whole room and you pour the 825, and you've encapsulated all of that nasty Pandora box of cutback and asbestos tile. You can go over top of radiant heat, and it can be used to accelerate the drying. So if you have radiant heat, you can go ahead and turn it on and speed up the process of this product drying. You cannot do that with a Portland or calcium aluminate cement-based self-leveler. So those are the self-levelers and the surface prep products. What this product shows is the two Sika Secure systems that we're out there promoting. To the left is the standard Sika Secure, and to the right is our Sika Secure Rapid. The standard is a turnaround of 2 days. It always starts with our Sika MB. We always like to try and have that be the initial product on a job. It's especially if it's a refit or a rehab or rip and replace. There's nothing that hits the reset button on your substrate quite like a Sika MB product. You can just roll it out and you're left with a product. You're left with a substrate that's ready for any of our cements or a urethane adhesive. If you go over top of a slab with a Sika MB, you have to use the O2 Easy primer before you can put any kind of cement. So you see the third layer there is our Sika Level, so that's coming over top of it with our Skim coat or the 325 or the 525, and then any of our flooring adhesives over top of it. The Sika Secure Rapid on the right, that's less than a 1 day turnaround. I talked about that system that you can have, that's 5 days. So literally if you're on a job at 8 a.m. and you have high moisture and a slab that's at a level, in 5 hours, you're ready to put down flooring. And those two issues, moisture and levelness, are already taken care of. That's your Sika MB Redline, which is a 3-hour cure, the O2 Easy Primer, a half-hour cure, and the Sika Level 525, a 90-minute cure. And then after that, you're ready for any flooring adhesives. So those are the two systems that we promote at Sika. They all involve our levelers or our skim coats. Very rarely is, like I said at the beginning of the presentation, very rarely is there a floor that you can walk into with your trowel and your adhesive and just start spreading. Inevitably, you're going to have some type of floor prep, and we'd love to be the company that helps you out with that. That's my presentation. I thank you very much for your time and your patience early on getting started here. And if you have any questions, I'm more than happy to answer them.
Thank you so much, Sean. If the audience has any questions or comments, please submit them now in the question box on the left of your screen. We'll wait a few moments for people to enter in their questions. We did receive a couple questions in the meantime already during the presentation. The first question is, would the primer work for coolers or freezers or where we have low temperatures? Do we need to shot blast the existing concrete to open up the floors?
Okay, great question. So the primer in coolers or freezers, I'm assuming what we're talking about there is probably a metal subfloor, a metal substrate that there's concerns with. If that's the case, you would use the O2 Easy primer. If it's not, if it's a concrete subfloor that you have a freezer built over top of, you can use the O1 primer. However, you are going to need to have the freezer or cooler off during the installation. It's got to come down to a suitable temperature, not only for the primer, but also for the self-levelers that you're looking to pour over top of it. They will not cure correctly unless they're in that range of, I think it's probably 45 to 70 degrees or whatever. You know, you're going to want that substrate temperature in that proper range in order for not only the primer, but the self-leveler to perform the way we want them to. do you need to shot blast existing concrete to open up the floors? That's an interesting question. So as long as the slab is porous, you can go right over top of it with our 01 primer plus, and then pour any of our self-levelers. If the concrete is non-porous, we typically, if you're going to self-level, we typically ask you to open it up a little bit, only because we want to get that mechanical bond. If you're going over top of an existing slab that has old adhesive, which is a question I get all the time. I'm ripping up this floor. I've got pressure-sensitive adhesive down. Do I have to come in and shot blast the whole floor before I can come in and self-level or moisture mitigate? With the Sika system, you do not. As long as you're using one of those MB primers, you only have to remove 50% of the old adhesive or old sealers. And that's important because typically that means you don't have to bead blast. You don't have to pay to have the bead blast machine on. You don't have to pay or get with the electrician to get the proper power pulled into the building for the bead blaster. You're not sweeping and vacuuming up a million of those little shots that are all over the place after you bead blast a slab. You can typically get 50% of the old adhesive off by sanding or scarifying. And with that method, you open up enough of the slab to allow the MB primer or the MB redline primer to penetrate down into the slab and encapsulate all the old adhesive. And that's why I said I always start the job with MB, especially if it's a rip and replace, because what I've done there by just scarifying and then applying the MB, I've hit the reset button on that substrate. And now I'm ready for all of my surface prep and adhesives to go over top of that MB. But to answer your question, you do not have to shot blast if you're going to use our MB primer. Just get 50% of the old adhesive or sealers off, and you're good to go with our MB. So there's minimal floor prep.
Next question, are any of these products able to run through a pump, or do they need to be barrel mixed?
They can all be run through a pump. The data sheets, when you pull the data sheets or our method statement for self-leveling, it'll give you the specifications for the pump, but a lot of them are pretty much the same. The key with the pump is the water ratio, so you have to make sure you have the water ratio dialed in before you start actually applying product to the job. So sometimes that takes going through a couple bags to make sure you got it where you have it or where you need it. But all these products can be run through a pump, and they can all be barrel mixed with a hippo, or just a standard barrel is fine.
Okay. For the Sika Level-425, how long do you need to wait to install wood over the top?
So that's a good question. In the one slide, it said, I think, moisture sensitive flooring, 90 minutes. Wood is the one exception. Wood is so moisture sensitive that we ask you to wait 12 hours if you're going to glue down wood directly over top of that 525. The reason for that is we want to make sure that all the moisture is driven out of that product. It's a little bit different with vinyl because the vinyl won't really absorb that moisture. It'll displace it as it slowly sort of release along the seams of the vinyl or the joints where your VCT is, and there's no issue with the moisture coming out that way and allowing the 525 to fully cure. The problem with the wood is there's plenty of places for the moisture to come out. In between the boards, it'll come out just fine. The problem is you have wood, which is like a sponge with moisture, and it will actually pull some of that moisture out of 525 and create some cupping in the wood. And we don't want the wood to cup, so we tell you to wait 12 hours on wood if you're going over top of 525.
Okay, we have one final question. Can you put a fan on the products to dry them quicker?
Not the self-levelers. We don't want any kind of fan. And even with the primers, if you have a fan and you misdirect it, so in other words, you point the fan up and not directly at the primer, that's okay. Any kind of air movement is good for these products to promote them drying, but direct wind or direct fan on them, especially the self-levelers, if it speeds up the drying too much, then you're left with a weak and brittle self-leveler. So you don't want to try and make like for instance, the 325, we tell you can walk on in 3 hours, and you say, well, I need to walk on in an hour and a half. I'm going to throw a Caterpillar on it, or I'm going to point 3 fans at it. And yeah, it'll dry in an hour and a half, but it's not going to be the product you want it to be after an hour and a half. It's going to be very brittle. It's going to be very soft. You're going to be able to rub your key in it. You don't want to do that with any self-leveler. You don't want to enhance or speed up the time that it cures. But if you want to make sure it doesn't go beyond its normal time, like if you have a muggy room or a room that's just enclosed with no windows or doors or whatever, you can facilitate some air movement, but you don't want to have it directed at the surface of the self-leveler.
Okay, if there aren't any more questions, no more questions have come through. So since there aren't any more questions, then on behalf of FCICA, thank you so much, Sean, for presenting today's webinar, Sika Self-Leveling Underlayments. Sims, you may now navigate to the Submit Credit tab to receive credit. Please note that you must be signed into the education platform for this feature to work. If you have any issues, please let us know. This is the conclusion of the webinar. Thank you so much for joining us today, and have a great day. Thank you.